Chapter 1134. Let's take Maya as an example. Gu Mingming chuckled, then continued. I purposely arranged for her to sit beside me during the night campfire party today, and even called her over to my campfire to talk for a while. This was an opportunity for her to be hated. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, asking, But Mandy also sat beside you, and went to talk to you, so will she be ostracized too? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Mandy is the first beauty of the beast world that I personally named. She has taken the little bamboo cup that I personally made, and has become my partner with my good friend Ian. She can come to the cave to eat, chat and play with me whenever she wants. If she sits beside me, everyone will only take it for granted. But Maya is different. Gu Mingming's gaze turned cold, and with a hint of slyness she said, Although the 16 valued females come from different tribes, they came to Saint Nazir together. They are on the same starting line, and have a kind of empathy for one another. And Maya, the original half-orc female of Saint Nazir, will never be able to blend into the circle of the 16 valued females. If she had a good relationship with me like Sandy, it would still be alright. But unfortunately, our relationship is just SOSO. If Leah had not suggested for me to reveal the news to her today, I would have forgotten about this person. Gu Mingming paused, then said, If I really forget about her, it would be a good thing for her. After all, she knows how to show her weakness, putting on a cowardly look whenever she meets people, and is highly deceptive. Most females would not make things difficult for her, because a complete female would not even bother to treat a half-orc female like her as an opponent. But she just had to be like this, suddenly becoming the center of attention today. There must be some among the 16 valued females who are unconvinced, such as what right does a lowly half-orc female like her have to sit beside the messenger of the beast deity? Or just because she is an original female of Saint Nazir, she can claim a relationship with the messenger? How shameless, and other reasons are enough to make her ostracize. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and continued, and what Mandy has to do is just to randomly start a conversation, then add some fuel to the fire. Leah held his cheek and looked at Gu Mingming, his long and narrow eyes filled with approval. He loved Gu Mingming's craftiness like a little fox. It was really charming. Lusting after her radiant look, Leah continued asking, Are you so sure that those females will only target Maya and won't implicate Mandy? Gu Mingming nodded without a doubt and said, Girls will not be jealous of Fan Bingbing's beauty, but they will be jealous of Wang Erhua from the class next door who has lost another 2 kilograms. And the neighbor Zhao Xiaomei's newly removed double eyelids are especially beautiful. Who were Fan Bingbing, Wang Erhua and Zhao Xiaomei? Looking at Leah and Elvis's confused faces, Gu Mingming knew that they would not understand her explanation, so she changed her explanation. Let's put it this way, for example, one day you suddenly say that you don't want me anymore, and that you like someone else. Then, when I see that the person you like is Melinda, I might start bawling and scold you for being a scum. Then, after the emotional trauma has passed, I will slowly recover. But if the person you like is Nina, then I will definitely be unhappy. She is not as good as me in every aspect. Do you want her to not want me? This is simply trampling on my dignity. I can tolerate it, but I can't. We have to fight it out, right? Aside from the topic. Regarding Maya, let me say a few words. This person did not suddenly turn evil. Actually, I have mentioned it in the previous chapter. I don't know if everyone still remembers it. 1. When Gu Mingming left the Snake King Valley and brought her tribesmen back to Saint Nazir from Sadr, they encountered stray beasts on the way. Then, how did the stray beasts know their route and exact time? At that time, Gu Mingming was already a beast king. If someone was following them, they would definitely discover it. So, there must be a traitor. 2. Cole used a worm on Leah, messing up his rationality and driving him crazy with jealousy. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when Maya said, Burke brought Kanwu and the rest along with Gu Mingming. They are more like a family than Leah. 3. Previously, on the grassland outside Sadr, the half-orc female who was with Cole was also Maya. I don't want my babies to become conspiracy theorists, but I'm afraid that you will feel that Maya's turn to evil was too sudden, so I'm going to recap the past. Chapter 1135. Lee's face darkened. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "So, you were crying and throwing a tantrum back then not because you were sad about leaving me, but because you felt indignant about losing to Nina? Am I right?" Gu Mengmeng did not react in time and could not keep up with Lee's pace. She was stunned for a while before she understood that her analogy had struck an old wound in Lee's heart. So she quickly smoothed it out and said, "I was just making an analogy, I didn't mean it that way." Leah clearly did not believe her. He frowned and his long and narrow eyes were filled with desolation. The words "I am sad" were clearly written on his face. Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. How long had it been? Sigh. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Gu Mengmeng held Lee's face and kissed it. She said, "Then I won't use Nina as an analogy. I'll use Maya, all right? If you abandon me because of Maya, I will definitely be indignant." Leah looked down and twisted his fingers. He pursed his thin lips and said, "You still blame me, right? Because of that, you have a knot in your heart, so you don't believe me anymore, right? In your heart, you can't get rid of the fact that I abandoned you, right?" Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Why did she feel like she was making things worse? Why was she coaxing him making things worse? No. Gu Mengmeng held Lee's face with both hands and wanted to explain. Leah raised his brows slightly and choked with emotions. He said, "You don't have to deny it. I understand. Who asked me to be the one at fault back then?" Gu Mengmeng said, No. Leah turned his head to the other side and looked like he was about to cry. He looked extremely wronged. Gu Mengmeng saw that she could not coax him anymore. So she narrowed her eyes and quickly pinched Lee's ear. She said, "Yes, I was just unhappy with the show you put up with Nina. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, I can't forgive you for saying that you don't love me. So you better stay away from other females in the future. If I see you being nice to other females other than me again, I will pinch your ear off. Do you hear me?" With Gu Mengmeng's roar, Leah was no longer pretentious. He looked at Gu Mengmeng affectionately and nodded his head seriously, like a Samoyed being reprimanded by its owner. He looked innocent and pitiful, making others dote on him. He took the initiative to wrap his arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist and gave her a full hug. "My Gu Mengmeng is the best. I knew you wouldn't care about me." Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. What kind of despicable person was Leah? She couldn't coax him, so after shouting a few times he calmed down. But wasn't he analyzing Maya's situation just now? What was I saying? But I have to correct one thing. Leah rested his chin on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder and looked at her sideways. "Melinda is not as good as you. Everyone in this world is not as good as you. You won't lose to anyone." Gu Mengmeng could not help but laugh out loud. She was actually happy to be praised by her own man. Even though Gu Mengmeng felt that objectively speaking, Melinda was prettier than her. But who wouldn't want to be the prettiest girl in her man's heart? Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's head with both hands and rubbed it. Then she continued, "Yeah, you have good taste. Keep it up." Because of Lee's interruption, Gu Mengmeng had forgotten to analyze this matter in detail. But anyway, the results would be displayed in front of her tomorrow. There was no difference whether she analyzed it or not. Aside from the topic, there were still 4 days before the release. Yeah, it should be around 120,000 on the first day. Babies, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Chapter 1136. Mandy indeed did not disappoint Gu Mengmeng. The next morning was still fine, but by noon, the atmosphere in St. Nazaire was clearly different. As Elvis had already stored enough food and did not need to go out hunting, Gu Mengmeng let him accompany her to walk around the tribe. On one hand, it was to check if there were any loopholes, and on the other hand, she wanted to see Mandy's results. By the stream, the 16 valued females were sitting in a circle discussing something. When they saw Gu Mengmeng, they all stood up and greeted her in a docile manner. Gu Mengmeng waved at Mandy, who walked over with a smile. "What were you talking about just now? Why are you smiling so happily?" Gu Mengmeng asked, even though she already knew the answer. After all, with her current hearing, she had already heard their conversation from afar. Mandy chuckled and replied, "Leanna and the rest took in a few new males last night, and are showing us her mating marks." Yeah, Gu Mingming heard this just now. Liana's new partner last night. Mark on her butt. To prevent Liana from lifting up her beast skin skirt to show her new mark, Gu Mingming spoke first. Last winter, there were 3 females in Sauter who gave birth to cubs, and one was pregnant with a female cub. This year, all of you must fight hard for me. Don't let others say that my 16 valued females are good-looking but useless. Understand? Great Messenger, don't worry. We have sufficient food this winter, and with you the leader and the witch doctor around, we don't need to worry about being disturbed. We will work hard to mate, and fight hard for the Great Messenger when winter ends next year. We won't let those foxes in Sauter lose out. The one speaking was Liana. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and said, Females are the tribe's precious resource, and cubs are the foundation of a tribe's strength. All of you must work hard. The glory of Saint Nazir depends on all of you. The females were all fighting to be the first to agree to Gu Mingming's request, as if they were injected with chicken blood. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and thought to herself, Males, this is as far as I can help you. As they were chatting and laughing, Maya also arrived at the stream, but before they even got close, the faces of the 16 valued females darkened. Gu Mingming pretended not to understand and looked at everyone, then at Maya, not saying a word. Mandy exchanged glances with the 16 valued females before walking to Gu Mingming's side. She said coquettishly, Gu Mingming, I have a secret to tell you. Follow me back to my cave to take a look, alright? Gu Mingming naturally had to go along with Mandy's act, so she nodded. Alright. After agreeing, he said to the others, Sorry girls, Mandy and I will be leaving first. I'll chat with you another day. Take care, Great Messenger. Goodbye, Great Messenger. The 16 valued females smiled and waved at Gu Mingming, then watched her leave. In actual fact, Gu Mingming and Mandy had secretly returned to the stream after taking a detour. But this time, they hid behind a large tree in the distance, quietly observing the situation by the stream without revealing themselves. Hey half-beast female. Liana was the first to attack. She took a step forward and stood in front of Maya. She said, We sisters want to rest by the stream. Get lost. Chapter 1137. I'm also a female of Saint Nazir. Maya said timidly. Liana chuckled and crossed her arms in front of her chest. So what? We are complete females, and have the right to enjoy the tribe's resources first. A lowly half-orc female, like you dares to snatch from us? After Nina's death, it had been a long time since anyone in Saint Nazir talked about complete females and half-orc females. Because of Gu Mingming's relationship with Sandy, she was very lenient towards the half-orc females. Hence, the 16 valued females had been very restrained in the past year, and had never argued with Sandy and Maya. However, the sense of superiority that had been ingrained from birth could not be completely worn away in just over a year. There was really no need to learn how to flaunt their prowess in front of the half-orc females. Every complete female could do it easily, especially when the 15 present were the original first beauties of the tribe. This sense of superiority was even more obvious. All of them were at the peak of their abilities. Gu Mingming said that in Saint Nazir, half-orc females are not inferior to complete females. We are all the same. Maya could not keep up the act any longer. She clenched her fists tightly by her side, and her voice was sharp. Liana looked as if she had heard a joke. She lifted her chin and looked at Maya. Oh, are you trying to curry favor with the Great Messenger just because you are an old tribesman of Saint Nazir? Are you trying to show how close you are to the Great Messenger, so that you can use her name to pressure us? That's not what I meant. Maya felt that things were getting out of hand. Everything had been fine yesterday, but she did not know why things had turned out this way today. Her males had gone out to hunt in the morning, and all of them were injured when they returned. She asked in detail, and found out that they had been bullied by the males of the 16 valued females. Not only had they snatched their prey, they had also severely injured them. Although Saint Nazir had a witch doctor, the injuries of ordinary males could not even trouble Leah to treat them. Hence, they could only force themselves to endure. Maya did not know what had happened, so she specially ran over to the stream to find out what was going on. In the end, She realized that these females had started to target her for no reason. All of this was too sudden. She couldn't understand what was going on. Liana did not have the patience to talk nonsense with Maya. She just took a step back and said, "Where are your males? Are they here? What do you want?" Maya looked at the 16 valued females standing in front of her, her heart pounding. Liana said, "I don't want to see you here. You can either scram immediately, or let your male come out and compete with our male. The winner will stay." As soon as Liana finished speaking, the 16 valued females gave their partners a meaningful look, and the accompanying males gathered in unison. In the beast world, a female would have at least 2 family members by her side. The first partner and the strongest male in the family. The 2 of them usually didn't need to go out to hunt. They would always stay by the female's side to ensure that she lived comfortably and safely. Just like Sandy's Boyd and Colin, and Mandy's Ralph and Ian. Therefore, almost all the orcs that surrounded them were level 3 and level 4 orcs. Maya only had a level 2 wolf Nissan with her. How could she possibly be a match for them? Maya's eyes reddened. She stomped her feet, turned around and ran away. She looked extremely wronged. Chapter 1138. Liana snorted coldly. "Do you think we can hide our little tricks from the Great Messenger?" "You mean?" Liana continued. "With the Great Messenger's intelligence, the moment Mandy said we were going to pull her away, she knew what we were going to do. If the Great Messenger wanted to help that half-orc female, she could have stayed or asked her to leave with her. But the Great Messenger left with Mandy without even turning back. Isn't it obvious that she will not side with her?" "Yet that makes sense," another female agreed. Liana continued. "Maya is not Sandy. Even if she really complained to the Great Messenger, she will not pursue the matter even if we deny it. But, if she really dares to sow discord in front of the Great Messenger and ruin our image, we will show her the prowess of the 16 valued females." The 10 over females roared with laughter. Then they all started to think about how to teach Maya a lesson. Elvis, who had been by Gu Mingming's side all along, felt his scalp go numb. He carried Gu Mingming up and turned to leave. No way, these females were too scary. He could not let Xiaoming stay with them anymore. She would be scared. However, he seemed to have forgotten. The one who had instigated these females to target Maya was the little fairy in his arms. After walking for some distance, Gu Mingming patted Mandy's shoulder. "Now that I have dragged you down with me, we can be considered to have been in the same boat. Although Ian had never been my messenger's protector, his importance to me wasn't any lower than Colin's. So, you can treat me like a good friend like Sandy in the future. When you need my help, you can look for me in my cave. When you miss me, you can also look for me, yeah." Mandy smiled so widely that only her teeth could be seen. It was 70% blissful and 30% sweet. Gu Mingming smiled back. "It's almost noon. Do you want to have lunch together?" Mandy's eyes instinctively darted to Elvis's face. She was clearly trying to read his expression. It was almost winter and by then, Gu Mingming would have to stay in the cave no matter how much she liked crowds. So before the snow sealed off the mountain, Elvis did not stop her even though he was unwilling. He nodded, silently allowing Mandy to accompany Gu Mingming for a meal. Mandy was overjoyed as she nodded. Then she turned to her partner and said, "Ralph, send me to the outskirts of Gu Mingming's territory. Then go back and ask Ian to fetch me." "All right." Ralph nodded, then carried Mandy up and followed Elvis back to the cave. As winter was approaching, Oriton, who shared meals with them, treated every meal as his last. As a result, the amount of prey he brought back increased day by day, causing Leah, who was in charge of cooking, to have a bad expression on his face. There were a few times when he wanted to reject Oriton's request to share a meal with him, but on account of Gu Mingming, he held himself back. When Gu Mingming returned, she saw Oriton circling around the pot. Barit was like a silent ranger sitting quietly at the entrance of the cave, his deep and precise gaze capturing Gu Mingming's figure. Meanwhile, Leah was looking at Oriton with disdain while cooking. Seeing that Gu Mingming had returned, the smile on his face turned warmer. Chapter 1139. TSK. Leah was speechless as he shook his head in amazement. This female's technique is really... Gu Mingming chuckled and continued Li's sentence. There is no smoke on a woman's battlefield, but it is far crueler than a man's. Leah nodded in deep agreement. Just hearing Gu Mingming's plan to deal with Maya from the 16 valued females was already enough to make Leah gasp in amazement. He had always thought that the Snow Fox tribe was good at scheming, but now he realized that their so-called scheming only applied to making use of others. They would only act after obtaining benefits, so as long as they followed the lines of benefits, they would always be able to find clues. Even for a pervert like Cole, there were still benefits to be gained from guessing people's intentions. But when the females were ruthless, they would simply harm you, without any benefits at all. Their motives were so pure that it made one speechless. So much so that it was impossible to deduce the course of events from the conclusion, because the final outcome would be someone's misfortune, and no one would gain anything from it. Leah face-bombed as he thought about it. He suddenly felt that those accidents that he did not take to heart in the past were not so simple. Gu Mingming did not say much and just continued eating from her bowl. With the 16 valued females taking care of Maya. Even if I am not in Saint Nazaire, Maya's days will not be too boring. He would not have the time and energy to obstruct Gu Mingming's actions. Mandy finished the meat in her bowl, then looked up at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming, there is something I feel I should tell you. Gu Mingming looked back at Mandy, inquiring with her eyes. Mandy said, when I went to meet the 16 valued females this morning, I purposely raised the topic of Maya and heard something strange. Gu Mingming replied with a single syllable, indicating for Mandy to continue. Mandy continued, during the rainy season last year, there were many people from other tribes who came to Saint Nazaire to snatch food. But every time there was an invasion, Maya was not in the tribe. Even though a lot of her food was snatched away, when we saw her at the end of winter, we realized that she did not lose any weight at all. Moreover, her partners were all there. What he meant was that even though Maya's food had been stolen, she was still able to enjoy a sumptuous winter, and it wasn't at the expense of eating her companion. Gu Mingming chuckled. She was not surprised by this outcome at all. She just exchanged a look with Leah and it was a tacit understanding. Oakley wanted to use the water source to push Sauter to the teeth of the storm to coerce Cole. So Cole used the food to drag Saint Nazaire into the water to share the risk. Since it was Cole's doing, he would naturally give Maya some pointers. After all, most of the males who would come to snatch the food were already mated. In order to prevent their own females from starving, there was a high possibility that they would kill Maya when snatching the food. After all, as long as Maya died, her male would be devoured by the mating contract. This way, the food that her family had stored up would become ownerless, and they could take whatever they wanted. Maya was an important chess piece in the game between Cole and Leah. Naturally, Cole would not let Maya die so easily, so it was natural for him to give her a few pointers before she made a move. He couldn't let the food robbers kill Maya, and naturally, he wouldn't let her starve to death during the winter. Chapter 1140. Mandy saw that Gu Mingming was not surprised at all, and was even exchanging glances with Leah. Mandy thought for a moment and asked, "You already knew?" Gu Mingming did not hide anything from Maya and nodded. "Yeah, I knew." Mandy nodded. "That's true. You are the messenger of the beast deity. You must know everything." Gu Mingming chuckled. She thought to herself that the messenger of the beast deity was not a half-immortal. How could she know everything? It was just that Leah had told her about Maya's identity. Many things became clear at a glance. There was no need to explain too much. Sometimes it was good to maintain a sense of mystery. Mandy had just finished the meat in her bowl when Ian came to fetch her. He even placed a beast skin bag on the table. "My man has freeloaded a few meals at your place. Consider this a gift in return." With that, Ian did not waste any more words. He carried Mandy and flew into the sky. Gu Mingming snorted arrogantly. "So what if you can fly?" A reply came from the sky. "Yes, it's great to be able to fly." Gu Mingming waved her fist and roared. "Just you wait." Despite her roar, Gu Mingming was not really angry. She just casually flipped open the beast skin bag on the table. There were over 50 bird eggs the size of chicken eggs inside. According to the ratio in the beast world, these eggs were probably equivalent to quail eggs in the modern world. Leah craned his neck to take a look. He smiled. Ian, you're good. It's almost winter and the birds are not laying eggs anymore. You must have flown for a long time to find these, right? Laughing, Leah raised his voice and shouted in the direction that Ian had flown off to. Hey, welcome your female to join us for a meal again. Gu Mingming burst out laughing. If Leah were to wave a handkerchief in his hand now, he would look like a brothel madam from a television drama. Leah did not know what Gu Mingming was laughing at. He just habitually curled his lips at her smile. Then he turned around to continue preparing the food. Elvis, who had been silent all this while, tightened his arms around Gu Mingming's waist. Xiao Meng, in the future, you better not hang out with the 16 valued females. They are too dangerous. Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis with a smile. Are you scared? Elvis nodded. If it was a tactic aimed at him, he was not afraid of anything. But he was especially afraid that those methods would be used on Gu Mingming one day. In the past, he had felt that females were annoying, but now he felt that they were terrifying. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and patted his back lightly to comfort him. Don't worry, they won't use those tricks on me. Even if he used it, it wouldn't be enough in front of me. I've watched more than 700 episodes of Detective Conan, and I'm proficient in more than 600 ways to kill people. I'm familiar with hundreds of poisons and know how to create all kinds of alibis. Seeing how Gu Mingming was spouting nonsense, Elvis's mood suddenly became better. No matter what others wanted to do to her, he would always be there to protect her. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the mountain was covered in snow. Gu Mingming sat at the entrance of the cave. Holding her chin, she watched as the entrance, which could fit 3 people side by side, was gradually sealed by the snow. Her gaze became a little dazed. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming from behind and whispered into her ear. It's too cold. Don't sit at the entrance. Chapter 1141. Ever since Gu Mingming inherited Elvis's night vision ability, they no longer stayed in the outermost chamber of the cave. It was too close to the cave entrance, and was not the most comfortable place in the cave. Previously, they stayed there just to accommodate Gu Mingming's need for a light source. Gu Mingming rubbed her little hands and said, On the first day of sealing the mountain, I'll let you guys try something good. Elvis and Leah looked at each other, not knowing what Gu Mingming meant. After all, every piece of meat and potato in this cave was carried back by the 2 of them personally. What other good things could make Gu Mingming act so mysteriously? But since the little female had such an interest, the 2 of them were naturally willing to cooperate. So they smiled and looked at Gu Mingming expectantly. Gu Mingming took the small bamboo cup that she made in the bamboo forest, and walked to the side of the wooden barrel. She lifted the lid and leaned against the barrel to smell it. Yeah, a fruity aroma mixed with a rich wine aroma. It should be drinkable. Gu Mingming did not pass it to Elvis and Leah hastily. She first poured half a cup into her own small cup, and tasted it carefully. Without professional equipment, she could not extract the sugar, so the sourness was not balanced. It was more like grape juice than red wine. But if one tasted it carefully, it was not difficult to discover that there was alcohol in it. Actually, the taste was still very good. But Gu Mingming herself had not drunk any high-quality wine in the modern world. But compared to the Great Wall Dry Red, Gu Mingming felt that her portion was still better. Gu Mingming then poured a cup for Leah and Elvis respectively after the wine was fine. Then she gestured for them to try it. Leah was a little surprised. He knocked on the wooden barrel and said, "This is for drinking? I thought you wanted to use it for bathing." Gu Mingming could not help but laugh and said, "I've only heard of people using milk to bathe. I've never seen anyone using red wine to bathe." "Red wine?" Leah asked. Gu Mingming nodded and answered, "Yeah, usually wine is brewed from grains. But I've been here for more than 2 years and have never seen a single grain of rice. I can't even eat it, let alone brew wine. Luckily, grapes can also be used to brew wine. Although the purity is not high, it's still good to drink it. Would you like to try it?" Elvis and Leah did not say anything else. Anything given by Gu Mingming, even if it was poison, they would drink it in one gulp and praise it as delicious. What more, a glass of wine? The way they drank without hesitation made Gu Mingming frown. Red wine was a matter of taste. How did these two manage to taste like guillotine? If there was a wooden board stuck on the back of their necks, the two of them should have smashed the cup after drinking this bowl of wine, and then righteously said, 18 years later, we will be heroes again. Before Gu Mingming could complain, she heard a loud thud and Elvis fell straight onto the ground. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately squatted down to hug Elvis's head, patting his face and calling, "Hubby? Hubby, what happened to you? Are you allergic to grapes? Don't scare me." Huff, huff, huff. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment. She blinked her eyes and looked at Elvis, whose face was rosy and his breathing was even and did not look like he was allergic at all. She was stunned for a moment before she laughed dryly and said, "It can't be. 1 cup and you'll pass out." Chapter 1142. Leah. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry. She should not have allowed them to drink at the same time. She had forgotten that there were no alcohol products in the beast world, and these two had no resistance to it at all. She had thought that they might get drunk, but she did not expect them to be so drunk after just 1 cup. Leah frowned and pinched Gu Mingming's face with his large hands, forcefully turning her mouth into a fish's mouth. Then he kissed her harshly and said angrily, "What did you call me?" Leah. Before Gu Mingming could finish her sentence, Leah kissed her again, crushing the word "ya" in her mouth. Squinting his dangerous eyes, Leah said domineeringly, "Call me daddy." Pfft. Gu Mingming really wanted to spit a mouthful of red wine on Lee's face. Ever since she gave birth to Hutta and his brothers, she did not call him daddy anymore. She thought he had long forgotten about it. "Stop fooling around. Let me put Elvis on the bed first, all right?" Gu Mingming tried to reason with Leah, but Leah did not care about that and squeezed himself in between Gu Mingming and Elvis. Then he squeezed Elvis out of Gu Mingming's embrace and made her his own. His large tail wrapped around her waist and he clung onto Gu Mingming like an octopus, saying, "Call me daddy, quickly call me daddy." Leah. Leah did not stop until he heard Gu Mingming call him daddy. He kissed her lips harshly again. When they let go, both of their lips were slightly swollen. His gaze was filled with hidden bitterness and his drunken state was the most blurry. His gaze landed on Gu Mingming's face and he said softly, "In the past, you would always call me Leah daddy obediently, but now you don't. Gu Mingming, little Gu Mingming. Did you have a change of heart? Do you think I don't look good anymore?" Gu Mingming knew that Leah was drunk, so she gave up trying to reason with a drunkard. She could only go along with his wishes and called out softly, "Daddy Leah." Leah froze for half a second before suddenly crying. As he cried, he hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her randomly. He choked as he kissed. "Ah, I must be dying, right? Otherwise, why would you be so obedient? You must be thinking that I'm going to die. Sob, sob, sob. I don't want to die yet. I still want to accompany you. What will you do if I die? You can't eat Elvis's cooking. You'll be poisoned to death." Was the logic of a drunkard fed to the dogs. He asked her to call Leah daddy, and she did, so he was going to die? What the F***ck was this? This was the first time Gu Mingming saw Leah cry, and it was in such a situation. Sighing, Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and patted his back to comfort him. You won't die. You still want to grow old with me, don't you?" "Yes." Leah cried aggrievedly and only managed to spit out one word after a few turns. Gu Mingming said, "All right, come down quickly, you're so heavy." "Mingming, do you still like me?" Leah didn't get up and just looked at Gu Mingming drunkenly. Gu Mingming was helpless and could only reply with a smile, "I like it, of course I like it." Leah nodded in satisfaction, then said, "Then you lick me." Chapter 1143. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Mingming's face, saying, "Here, just like this." Similar to how dogs express their love? Yeah, orcs still had some beast genes in them. Licking should be the most direct way for them to express their love, right? But it was so embarrassing. Gu Mingming felt that she could not do it. You don't like it? Li's gaze was blurry, with a tinge of infatuation and drunkenness. He stuck out his pink tongue and licked the tip of Gu Mingming's nose, saying, I like Gu Mingming so much. Why can't Gu Mingming like me a little too? Gu Mingming felt all the bones in her body go limp after being licked by Leah. Don't stop fooling around. Leah paused, then sniffed. He suddenly smiled and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his index finger, saying, I can smell the scent of the fox's seductive fragrance. My Gu Mingming is aroused because of me, right? You like me licking you? No. Gu Mingming wanted to kill herself. Leah was clearly teasing her unconsciously when he was drunk, but her damn body actually reacted. Gu Mingming despised herself harshly in her heart, and kept telling herself to stay calm, stay calm. It was a perverted act to lay hands on someone who was not in his right mind. She was a good wife from a good family. She would not do such a thing. Leah bit Gu Mingming's lips. Hearing Gu Mingming gasping in pain, he seemed to be smiling happily, wiping away his tears and curling his lips, saying, Punish you. Who asked you not to tell the truth? Gu Mingming, you're not good. You secreted so much fox seductive fragrance when I licked you. The last time, when I licked here, the concentration of the fox seductive fragrance almost made me lose consciousness. His slender fingers gently wiped Gu Mingming's lips, asking, Did I bite you? It's all red. It must be painful. As he said, he pulled Gu Mingming's hand and placed it on his chest, saying, If you're in pain, I feel the pain too. Damn, don't bite me if you're feeling heartache. Moreover, what kind of scene was that when he said that he felt heartache and smiled at the same time? Seeing that Gu Mingming was not saying anything, Leah blinked his eyes, as if his brain was broken and he was trying hard to organize his thoughts. After a long while he finally said, Why don't I lick you? You can lick me after you're happy? Gu Mingming was really speechless. They were not even two damn dogs. Why were they licking? Gu Mingming hardened her heart, and thought if she should just release some beast pressure to make Leah faint. But before she could do anything, she heard a sound from the side. When she looked up, Elvis, who was lying on the ground like a corpse, was already standing there with his hands behind his back. He was looking down at Gu Mingming, who was lying on the ground under Leah. Xiaoming, get up. Elvis's voice was cold and his expression was sinister. He looked completely different from his usual self. Gu Mingming was a little terrified. Could it be that she developed a second personality after drinking? She pushed Leah, but Leah just lay on Gu Mingming's body, refusing to get up. Gu Mingming had no choice but to look up at Elvis. In the end, the moment she met his eyes, she felt her body becoming lighter. Leah was thrown out by Elvis in a parabola trajectory, crashing heavily against the cave wall. Elvis then lifted Gu Mingming up and said coldly, I said get up. Damn, Elvis looked so scary after drinking. Could it be that he was going to commit domestic violence after drinking? Aside from the topic, these two fellows passed out after one drink. Their styles after getting drunk were completely different. Yeah, everyone can look forward to what kind of jokes these two fellows would make tomorrow. Chapter 1144. I'm up, I'm up. It had been a long time since Gu Mingming was carried by Elvis like this. Her feet did not touch the ground, and after kicking a few times, seeing that Elvis had no intention of putting her down, she just gave up and treated herself as a piece of laundry that was hung up. Elvis's blue eyes were bottomless and his expression was calm and sinister. He did not look like he was drunk, but an extremely calm killer executing a mission. This expression was actually Elvis's signature expression before he met Gu Mingming, but she had never seen him like this before. A large hand pinched Gu Mingming's lower jaw, and his gaze locked onto her swollen lips. He frowned slightly and his blue eyes deepened. His voice was as cold as a bone-chilling wind. He bit you. Gu Mingming was thinking that Elvis's black and drunken look was not one to be trifled with. Should she lie for Leah? In the end, before she could say anything, her mouth was forcefully kissed by Elvis. His nimble tongue attacked the inside of her mouth, taking whatever he wanted and turning the world upside down. He kissed her until she almost suffocated before Elvis let go of her. There was not a hint of lust on his face, and he was still as cold as an assassin. He opened his mouth and said calmly, "Let's go. There's his taste." After saying that, Gu Mingming felt her body lighten and she was free falling. Elvis let go without any warning, and Gu Mingming fell onto the ground on her butt. Before she could get up, Elvis and Leah were already in a brawl. It was not the usual playful way of fighting. The two of them looked like they were fighting with their lives on the line. Did they really just drink a glass of wine with low purity? Were they sure they didn't drink concentrated alcohol? "Stop fighting," Gu Mingming roared. Leah was not Elvis's match due to the difference in their levels, and was almost being suppressed by him. Elvis was stopped by Gu Mingming's roar. He turned to look at Gu Mingming and said coldly, "Don't butt in between males' matters." After saying that, he threw another punch at Leah. Gu Mingming face-bombed. She did not expect Elvis to be so straight after getting drunk. She was momentarily speechless. While Elvis was distracted talking to Gu Mingming, Leah suddenly broke free from his restraint and shouted, "How dare you shout at my Gu Mingming?" She pounced towards Elvis and hung onto his back, biting his shoulder with all her might without letting go. Elvis's muscles tightened, but with only one level of difference. He could not shake off Leah as easily as Wabi did with the four little ones. He could only bend his body forward and roll on the ground, pinning Leah behind him. Leah heaved a sigh of relief from the pain on his back. Elvis took the opportunity to flip over and ride on Lee's body. His hands had already turned into sharp claws, and he went straight for Lee's face. Gu Mingming saw that they would really die if she did not stop them. Hence, she clenched her fists and instantly released a huge amount of beast pressure, causing Elvis and Leah to fall to the ground in a second. Elvis's body went limp, and he laid on Lee's body. Lee's claws had already pierced into Elvis's back, and half of his nails were embedded in his flesh. One of Elvis's hands was holding on to Lee's silver hair tightly while the other hand that was about to attack Leah landed weakly beside Lee's ear. Chapter 1145. Gu Mingming sighed. Forget it. These two fellows had real fur on their bodies and they would not feel cold even if they slept on the floor. Just let them be. Gu Mingming shook her head helplessly and poured herself another glass of grape wine. She tasted it carefully and it tasted really good. Moreover, the purity was really not high. She did not know why the two of them were so drunk. After drinking 2 to 3 glasses, Gu Mingming felt tipsy, so she covered the glass and climbed back into bed to sleep. She did not know how long she slept in a daze. But when Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis and Leah had not woken up yet. The two of them were still in the same position as when they were fighting. But now they seemed to be more intimate. Elvis loosened his grip on Lee's hair, so he was no longer in a state of grabbing but, my hand that went through your silver hair. His other hand that was originally going to attack Leah had now gone through the back of Lee's neck, and was used as a pillow under his head. Lee's claws that were originally stuck in Elvis's waist had loosened a little, and his nails had already been pulled out from his flesh. But now, his 2 arms were wrapped around Elvis's waist, as if he was hugging him. For long legs were intertwined and the beast-skin dress had already become crooked during the fight. It was a pathetic and ambiguous scene, and it was half covered and half exposed, making it even more tempting for one's imagination. Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time. She stared blankly at this scene that was even more seductive than a calcium film. Blood flowed down her nose uncontrollably. Elvis and Leah were traumatized by Gu Mingming's blood, because of the scene of Gu Mingming's difficult labor when she gave birth to Kanwu, and how Snakel carried Gu Mingming back in the Snake King Valley. So the moment they smelled her blood, the two of them woke up in shock. The first second after they opened their eyes, they were in a daze. Then shock. Elvis and Leah originally thought that they were hugging Gu Mingming, so their first reaction when they opened their eyes was to stare at each other affectionately. But with just one look, the two of them were petrified. They immediately bounced back, as if they were electrocuted. Then the two of them peeked at Gu Mingming in unison. Seeing the blood dripping from her nose, he gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and supported the back of her head with his hand to raise her head. Leah, on the other hand, quickly went to the door and dug out 2 large chunks of snow. Using his body to melt it into water, before patting it on Gu Mingming's forehead and nose bridge. The temperature of the snow was very low. After Leah melted the snow with his hands were also very cold. When he touched Gu Mingming's skin, there was an icy feeling and it was very comfortable. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes and giggled foolishly while Elvis and Lee's faces darkened even further. Erase whatever you're thinking about right now. Leah smacked Gu Mingming's forehead as he commanded, almost gritting his teeth. Gu Mingming feigned ignorance and smiled. What am I thinking? I wasn't thinking about anything. Leah looked at Gu Mingming coldly and pinched her little nose. You have a nosebleed when you didn't think of anything? Gu Mingming held back her laughter. She looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Then, she stuck one hand into Lee's hair and the other around his neck. She looked at Leah lustfully and asked, Are you trying to make me forget about this? Chapter 1146. Just now when she woke up, Elvis was hugging Leah in this position, but the look between Elvis and Leah was definitely not like what Gu Mingming was showing now. But as the impact was too great, Elvis and Leah were already in a daze, so they did not notice this detail. With that, Gu Mingming turned around and walked behind Elvis. She crossed her legs around Elvis's waist and placed her right hand on Elvis's right shoulder. She lowered it and placed it on Elvis's chest while her left hand went under Elvis's left armpit and hooked upwards, touching Elvis's heart. Her little head landed on Elvis's left shoulder, and she opened her mouth. Closing her teeth, she bit on Elvis's shoulder. Before she let go, she even licked Elvis's shoulder with the tip of her tiny tongue, causing Elvis to shudder. Gu Mingming smiled innocently, looking up at Leah and asked, Or do you want me to forget about this? With that, Gu Mingming got down from Elvis's body again, drawing circles on the bite mark on Elvis's left shoulder with her little hand. From the size of the bite mark, it was obvious that it was not Gu Mingming's, and there were 4 deeper holes, obviously made by her fangs. Leah instantly felt as if he was struck by lightning, staring at Gu Mingming in shock. The snow had sealed the mountain, and there were only 3 people in this cave. Gu Mingming did not have fangs, so unless Elvis could pull his own head off and place it on his shoulder to bite himself, that bite mark could only be him. The scene of Gu Mingming seductively hanging onto Elvis's body replayed endlessly in Lee's mind, then automatically replaced with his own. Leah fell and sat on the ground, feeling as though all his hopes had been dashed to pieces. Elvis was not much better than Leah. The act of putting his hands in his hair and hugging his neck was imitated by Gu Mingming. Then the act of hugging his back and biting his shoulder was obviously imitated by her. Elvis clenched his fists and asked in a cold voice, Leah and I last night happened. He could not bring himself to ask. Gu Mingming tried hard to hold back her laughter and said, So many things happened, do you want me to replay them one by one for you to see? No need. Leah looked up abruptly and took a deep breath. Then he gritted his teeth and said, You just have to tell me one thing. Between the 2 of us, who was on top and who was on bottom? Gu Mingming was laughing like a dog in her heart, but it was such a rare opportunity. He had to hold it in. Thus, Gu Mingming tapped her chin lightly with her little hand, as if she was trying hard to recall. Then she said, Oh, you were pressed down by Elvis yesterday. And beaten up. Gu Mingming did not say the last word naughtily. Lee's face turned green and Elvis was no better. So both of them betrayed Gu Mingming and did something indescribable in front of her? Elvis staggered to the side of the wine barrel and raised his paw to smash it. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately rushed over to block the barrel. She stared wide-eyed at Elvis and asked, What are you doing? Elvis's eyes were bloodshot, and when he looked at Gu Mingming, he felt like his heart was aching. He squeezed out a sentence from the gaps of his teeth, word by word. Let me destroy this harmful thing first. Then you can punish me, all right? Gu Mingming was taken aback when she met Elvis's eyes. She wanted to play a prank but did not want to hurt Elvis and Lee's hearts. Chapter 1147. Hubby, don't be angry, listen to my explanation. Gu Mingming tried to comfort Elvis, but Elvis smiled bitterly and said, You have already decided not to want me, right? So I have no right to destroy your things. It's not like that. Gu Mingming shook her head, but Elvis did not give her a chance to finish her sentence. He took a step back and opened his chest as if he was about to die a martyr. He said, "Come on, end me. If I can die in your hands, I can die without regrets." Gu Mingming felt guilty. She did not want to play to this extent. She originally wanted to see Elvis and Lee's awkward look, but she ended up making them sad. Gu Mingming directly flew into Elvis's arms and bumped into him. She shook her head and said, "Hubby, nothing happened between you and Leah." Elvis's back stiffened and he immediately lowered his shoulders. He said, "You are still so kind and soft-hearted. Even after such a thing happened, you still can't bear to kill me? Ha, but what should I do? I can't face you." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis tightly and said, "I didn't lie to you really. Both of you had a fight last night and it was a little fierce, so I used my beast pressure to make both of you faint afterward." Leah swayed his tail and stood up from the ground. He turned around and leaned against the side of the wooden barrel. He crossed his arms and looked at Gu Mingming. He said, "Elvis, don't be so calculative. Anyway, I am the one at a disadvantage. I don't even mind. Why do you mind? Didn't Mingming always want to see such a scene? Let's just take it as a sacrifice to satisfy her." The veins on Elvis's forehead protruded. He looked at Leah coldly and said, "Yeah, right, I almost forgot about you." With that, Elvis stretched out his sharp claws and pounced towards Leah, looking like he wanted to take his life. Leah lowered his body and easily dodged. He then pulled Gu Mingming over and pushed her in front of Elvis. He hid behind Gu Mingming and said, "Mingming, look at him. He took advantage of me and still wants to abuse me. Sobs, sobs, sobs. I can't live on anymore." "If you can't, then go and die," Elvis said and wanted to attack again, but Leah just pushed Gu Mingming as a shield, dodging left and right to avoid Elvis's attack. Elvis was afraid of hurting Gu Mingming, so he tried many times but failed to hit Leah. Gu Mingming was dizzy from being shaken by Leah, but looking at the situation, she understood that Leah had reacted and believed Gu Mingming's words, so Gu Mingming could only beg for mercy. "All right, Leah, stop fooling around. Hurry and explain to Elvis. He will get angry if you continue." Only then did Leah pull Gu Mingming into his arms, pinching her little nose and shaking it left and right. His long and narrow eyes were filled with ridicule and reproach, as well as overwhelming indulgence and pampering. "Why didn't I see you being so obedient when you caused trouble? Are you begging for mercy now that you can't clean up the mess? I was wrong, I was wrong." Gu Mingming looked up at Leah with her innocent little puppy face and begged, "Hurry up, Elvis will really flip out if you continue." Leah tapped Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "I will settle the score with you later." Gu Mingming stuck out her little tongue and lowered her head in defeat. Leah, on the other hand, walked 2 steps towards Elvis out of boredom. He wanted to touch Elvis just now, but Elvis dodged away like he was avoiding the plague. Chapter 1148. Leah. Gu Mingming called Leah softly, with a "Why are you adding oil to the fire?" expression as she looked at Leah. Leah poked Gu Mingming's little head, then looked at Elvis with a chuckle. "If I'm in heat, I will emit my fox seductive fragrance uncontrollably. I can't even control it myself. Take a sniff. Does this cave have my fox seductive fragrance?" Elvis was taken aback. Then he really sniffed carefully with his nose. No, there really wasn't. A crack seemed to appear on Elvis's face. Then an expression as if he had just survived a calamity slowly emerged from the sinister surface. Leah poked Elvis's shoulder again, saying, "Look at the wound yourself. Does it look like I bit you when you were flirting? When have you ever seen me bite Gu Mingming so harshly?" With that, Elvis lowered his head to look at the wound on his shoulder. Indeed, to a male, this kind of wound was nothing, but one could tell that it was not left by biting when he was in heat. The flesh was already flipped open. He must have bitten really hard at that time. Leah rubbed his own hair again, then gently pushed it aside for Elvis to see, saying, "Have you ever seen anyone scratch out such a deep wound on their scalp while touching someone's hair? This technique. Ha! Why do I feel like you wanted to fix my head in place, then directly blow it off?" Elvis glanced at the wound on Lee's head. Yeah, this was his usual technique. The turbid air in his chest finally dispersed. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming with a complicated gaze. Xiaoming, come here. Gu Mingming walked over timidly, pinching Elvis's beast-skin skirt lightly with 2 fingers, saying, I was just joking, I didn't expect you to take it seriously. I was wrong, I won't joke like this again in the future. Elvis poked Gu Mingming's little head, sighing helplessly. You also promised me the same thing the last time you had a nosebleed. Which meant that her credibility had gone bankrupt. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly, wrapping her arms around Elvis's waist. That was because you shouted at me yesterday, that's why I pranked you. Elvis raised his eyebrows. He did not believe that he would yell at Gu Mingming. It was not enough for him to hold her in his palm. Seeing that Elvis did not believe her, Gu Mingming's face darkened and she mimicked Elvis's tone and expression yesterday. Don't butt in when it comes to males. You yelled at me like that yesterday. The impression was blurry, but Elvis seemed to have said something like that. Rubbing Gu Mingming's little head, Elvis could not be angry at her at all. Just now he thought that he was going to lose her, so he kept praying to the beast deity that everything in front of him was just a dream. Now he had gotten what he wanted, so why would he be bothered about Gu Mingming's prank? On top of that, Elvis's heart ached even more when he heard that he had shouted at her last night. His Xiaoming should be treasured and listen to the most gentle words in the world. How could he bear to yell at her? Hugging Gu Mingming and kissing the top of her head, Elvis said guiltily, I'm sorry, I might have gone crazy to shout at you. Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis with a smile, asking, Then let's treat it as if we're even. You're not allowed to settle scores after this. Chapter 1149. Leah tapped Gu Mingming's shoulder lightly and said, I didn't shout at you yesterday, right? Gu Mingming knew that Leah might have seen through her prank long ago, so he was not as agitated as Elvis and she did not feel so guilty towards him. But due to the two-faced nature of her fox, Gu Mingming decided not to fight him head-on. She pulled her lower lip and flipped the wound out for Leah to see, saying, Guess why Elvis fought with you yesterday? Leah frowned when he saw the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's mouth, as if a needle was pricking his heart. Hiss. I bit you? Gu Mingming hugged Lee's head and kissed him. Leah was first taken aback, but quickly turned the tables around and held the back of Gu Mingming's head to deepen the kiss. He even used the tip of his tongue to gently stroke the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's lower lip. Yet it matched his teeth. When they ended the kiss, Leah was already very sure that he was the one who caused the wound. His heart ached for her, but Leah would not apologize to her like Elvis. Instead, he pinched her little nose and said, Tell me, what did you do to anger me to the point that I want to bite you, huh? Gu Mingming's heart ached. She could not admit it. Gu Mingming instantly recalled the scene of Leah asking her if she liked him licking her with his drunken eyes. You're blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mingming with great interest. He squinted his eyes and sniffed with his nose, saying, Fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mingming, did I forget something extremely important? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, No. Leah held onto Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up. Gu Mingming's lower abdomen was pressed tightly against Lee's body. Lee's smile was devilish and sly. The corners of his lips curved into an ambiguous arc, saying, You didn't? Why do I feel that you definitely did, and it's very important? Gu Mingming, shouldn't you help me recall it personally? With the last word, Leah blew lightly into Gu Mingming's ear, causing her to feel numb all over her body. Taking a step back, Gu Mingming bit the corner of her lips and decided to take revenge. Thus he chuckled and said, I deserve to be bitten. Does seeing you cry count? Leah was taken aback and immediately denied. Impossible, I have never cried before. Elvis added, Yeah, I've never seen him cry before. Gu Mingming's shoulders shook as she chuckled. Then, she placed both her hands on Lee's shoulders and said with a heartbroken look, I'm going to die soon, right? Mingming, am I going to die? Mingming, I don't want to die yet. Leah was stunned. He stared at Gu Mingming for a moment before saying, You made it up, right? Gu Mingming looked straight into Lee's eyes, then smiled and shook her head. Leah took a deep breath, then held onto Gu Mingming's shoulders with both hands. Forget it. Forget everything that happened from last night to just now. I don't forget. Gu Mingming straightened her neck and thought to herself, who asked you to tease me? Humph humph, let's see who's better this time. Don't forget? Leah narrowed his eyes and smiled instead of getting angry. He said, then let's do something more memorable and erase the old memories. Leah and Elvis had been vegetarians for a long time. How would Gu Mingming not understand what Leah meant by something more memorable? But Chapter 1150. Silly Girl. Leah hugged Gu Mingming's waist and said softly, before we get the love of the sky, Elvis and I will not let you get pregnant. Elvis nodded and said, the snow is not thick enough, just in case, I will go guard the cave in trance. Leah hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and gave Elvis a thank you look. The two of them did not say anything else, they had a tacit understanding between each other. After Elvis left, only Gu Mingming and Leah were left in the cave. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin, his long and narrow eyes filled with lust, and he said, because of you asking for a child, I endured for so long not daring to touch you. You have been torturing me so hard recently. How are you going to make it up to me, mm? Gu Mingming clearly knew what was going to happen next, so she naturally did not dare to challenge Leah at this moment, or else with Lee's black-bellied character, he would make her unable to get off the ground for 3 days. Hooking her arms around Lee's neck, Gu Mingming smiled in an ingratiating manner and said with arched eyebrows and eyes, I will forget about you crying before, all right? Leah gritted his teeth and said, you are really good at spoiling the atmosphere. Do you think I will let you off just like that? Gu Mingming felt that she had been seen through, but she was not angry and just said shyly, don't torment me too much, I am scared. Once Gu Mingming gave in, Lee's heart itched even more unbearable. He flipped over and pinned Gu Mingming under his body, gently biting her left earlobe, and said in a low voice, my little Mingming, do you still remember what you promised me previously? Gu Mingming's face was blank. It was obvious that she had completely forgotten about it. When we were in solder, you thought of all sorts of nonsense and caused your nose to bleed. Elvis and I were so scared that we almost wanted to settle down by the stream. At that time, you promised me that I could punish you however I wanted to. Now you want to go back on your word, huh? Lee's entire body was above Gu Mingming, giving off a strong sense of oppression and presence. Gu Mingming twisted her body, trying to fight for more space for herself, but to no avail. Leah was bullying Gu Mingming with a force that could not be pushed away unless she hurt him. Knowing that she could not bear to hurt him, Gu Mingming could not even breathe smoothly because of Leah. She blushed and said, how long has it been? You still remember it? Lee's kiss landed lightly on Gu Mingming's lips. He did not go deep and just kissed her lightly. I had originally forgotten about it, but you refused to change. I feel that if I don't teach you a deeper lesson and make you remember my sexual orientation, your little brain will always be filled with all sorts of nonsense. Gu Mingming's lips twitched. Fine, this time he was in the wrong again. Gu Mingming pulled out her arms and wrapped them around Lee's neck. She asked coquettishly, then tell me, how should I punish him? Do you like me? Leah suddenly asked. Gu Mingming took the initiative to offer her own lips and kiss Lee's Adam's apple. She said, I like you. Then lick me. Leah smiled extremely devilishly, a teasing look in his eyes. Gu Mingming was stunned and blushed instantly. She said, aren't you drunk? Why do you still remember? Chapter 1151. Let's change another one. Gu Mingming begged for mercy. It's too embarrassing, I can't do it. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Mingming's left earlobe. Gu Mingming, do you know? I really like this mark. It's on your left ear, and it's whispering sweet nothings to you on behalf of me every day. It's chattering nonstop. Then Lee's kiss landed on Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming instinctively closed her eyes and allowed his lips to gently cover her eyes. Then, with a wet sensation, Gu Mingming knew that Leah had used his tongue to lick her eyes. I also like your eyes, they're so clean and transparent. The radiance in your eyes makes the stars in the sky dim and dull. When my shadow is reflected in those eyes, I feel that I'm the happiest person in this world. Lee's lips moved downwards and landed on Gu Mingming's little nose. He kissed it and then bit it lightly. The tip of his tongue brushed past it, and Gu Mingming laughed out loud from the tickling. I like your nose, especially when you're so proud of yourself. It's so vivid that I can see your mischievousness and cuteness, so I can't help but want to pinch it. Oh right, I also like the joyful smile on your face when you use it to smell the food I cooked for you. He then moved downwards and kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly. He pecked and kissed 7 to 8 times before finally covering her lips deeply. His nimble tongue tangled with the tip of her tongue in her mouth and danced with hers. I also like your lips. When you laugh, when you're playing around, when you're aroused, even when you're scolding me. Every note they make fascinates me, makes me sink, and makes me unable to control myself. No matter where I am, as long as this little mouth calls out to me, even if we're separated by mountains and oceans, I'll still fly towards you, disregarding everything. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, he brought it to his lips and kissed it. Then he bit each of her fingers and sucked on them gently. I like your little hands. When you wave at me, when you hug me, when you hold my hand, and when you twist my ear. It clearly transmitted your warmth to me and warmed my cold soul. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's entire body. Every time he kissed a spot, he would say a reason and a sentence of love. Gu Mingming's maiden heart exploded like popcorn, and she felt as sweet as if she was soaked in honey. Ming, what about you? What do you like about me? Leah circled one arm around Gu Mingming's waist while the other supported the back of her head. With a flip, Gu Mingming laid on his chest. Like what I did just now, lick the place you like, let me know. How much you like me, Perhaps it was because the atmosphere Leah had created was too perfect that Gu Mingming really felt that licking someone was not something that was embarrassing or unacceptable. Lying on Lee's chest like a cat, Gu Mingming kissed Lee's eyes lightly and said softly, I like your eyes. They slanted to the temples and hid thousands of ravines, but they gave me the exclusive love of the 3,000 worldly mortal world, just for my deep love. Chapter 1152. Holding onto Lee's hand, Gu Mingming kissed his palm. Then, she placed his large hand on her face and rubbed it gently. I like your hand too. It's slender and bony, with distinct joints. Time and time again, it would support my shoulders when I was helpless and tell me not to be afraid. No matter what happens, it would always prioritize protecting me and taking care of me. Gu Mingming mimicked Leah and kissed almost all over his body. Finally, she laid back on Lee's chest and kissed his heart. I like this heart the most. That's because I'm the only one in it. Lee's heart was lit up by Gu Mingming's words of love. The sparks connected and formed a prairie fire. Once it started, it could not be stopped. A round of pleasure could not be avoided. The ambiguity was scattered all over the floor, and it evolved into a symphony of love and love. Leah had been sober for a long time. This time, he was a little more ruthless. Gu Mingming did it 3 times when she was awake, and 2 more times after she fainted before he finally stopped. As a result, Gu Mingming was so exhausted that she slept till the sky turned dark. When she woke up, she did not even know how many days had passed. The bruises on her body had already disappeared and her fatigue was almost negligible. If Snake knew that the shocking recovery ability he left for her had been used in such a place, he would probably fly into a rage. You're awake. Leah crawled beside Gu Mingming like a satisfied cat. His thick tail swayed to show his master's good mood. Gu Mingming stretched out her hand, and Leah automatically placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Then he poked Gu Mingming's warm and soft little face with his finger. Are you hungry? The meat is already cooked and placed in the snow at the entrance of the cave to be frozen. You can eat it after heating it up. Gu Mingming shook her head. I just woke up, I don't feel like eating. Leah nodded. Then I won't eat it. You can touch me first. Gu Mingming paused. Did he start the topic of touch me after lick me? Gu Mingming was really scared. She did not know what shameful topic Leah would come up with next. She hurriedly let go of Lee's large tail and turned around. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. Hubby, I'm thirsty. Then, He took out a small bamboo cup and poured a cup of water for her. I was afraid that you would get a nosebleed due to excessive internal heat, so I kept the water boiling on the fire in the cave. But it's a little hot. Drink slowly. Gu Mingming replied. She lifted the cup and started sipping the water. Leah knew that she was shy and did not continue teasing her. After all, Gu Mingming had not eaten before making love. Now that she had slept so much, her stomach must be empty. So Leah got off the bed and went to the entrance of the cave to retrieve the stewed meat that was frozen in the snow. He placed it in the pot and heated it up. Not long after, a fragrant aroma filled the air, making one's mouth water. Gu Mingming sat at the table and ate the meat. She drank 2 mouthfuls of water. It was bland and tasteless. She poured herself a glass of wine to go with her meal. After Elvis and Leah experienced their first hangover, their expressions changed. They wanted to run away from Gu Mingming the moment they saw the red liquid in Gu Mingming's cup. Gu Mingming took a sip. Then she smacked her lips. Meat stew goes with wine. The more I drink, the better it feels. Tisk, no one else can do this, aside from the topic. Hurry, there's no time. Hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate. 4927792773. Get the train manager to check your ticket. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of the fragrant meat. Note: this train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. This train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. Chapter 1153. The 2 males looked at Gu Mingming in horror as she finished the entire glass of wine with gusto. They poured another glass as if they had not had enough. Xiaoming, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Elvis clearly remembered that he felt lightheaded after drinking that glass yesterday. His brain was filled with all sorts of thoughts, but he could not sort them out. The large amount of fragmented information directly broke his nerves, and he could not get up again. He could not remember how he got up and what he did after that. So, according to their body proportions, the same amount of wine that caused him such a heavy injury could be fatal to Gu Mingming. But why did Gu Mingming look like nothing happened to her? Just that her cheeks were red like a tempting apple. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis was scared by the wine. After the previous experience of teasing him to the point that he almost dragged Leah to die to atone for his sins, Gu Mingming did not dare to tease Elvis anymore. So she answered honestly, wine is a beauty tonic. The amino acids, minerals and vitamins contained in it can be absorbed directly. Drinking a little every day can help you beautify your skin, but... Elvis frowned. After all, his first experience with wine was not that great. Gu Mingming knew what he was worried about. She smiled and said, everyone has different levels of allergy to alcohol. Yeah. For example, you are the type of person who will pass out after 1 glass. Leah is slightly better. Although he only drank 1 glass, he at least knows what he did when he was drunk. As for me, haha, I should be invisible in our world. But here, Gu Mingming lifted her left leg and stepped on the stool. She placed her left hand, which was holding the wine glass, on her arched knee. She lifted her chin and smiled in a bold and unrestrained manner. The emperor calls for me but refuses to board the boat. I call myself a god of wine. Actually, Elvis and Leah did not understand what she was saying. But Lee's gaze was shining and burning hot. It was the feeling of a cult member meeting their leader. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She looked at Leah and asked, why are you looking at me like that? That sentence just now was also part of the esoterica, right? Although it was a question, Leah used a definite tone. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a while. After thinking for a while, she recalled that Leah was the 9th highness of Sauter, and Sauter was a weird tribe that had worshipped 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he nodded and said, yes, it should be. Leah knelt on one knee and held Gu Mingming's little hands with both his hands. He looked at Gu Mingming with eyes full of anticipation, as excited as a Samoyed that suddenly saw a meat bone after starving for a few days. His furry tail wagged furiously behind him, and his longing gaze made Gu Mingming feel that rejecting him was a crazy thing to do. Clearing her throat, Gu Mingming forced herself to recite the entire poem again. Li Bai wrote 100 poems in one go. Sleeping in a tavern in Chang'an City. The Son of Heaven called me, but I refused to come on board, calling myself an immortal of wine. Ah! Leah cupped his hands over his heart and frowned. He bit his lower lip lightly with a flushed face and exerted more force on his hand, as if his heart would jump out if he didn't do that. Gu Mingming held her forehead and asked, Are you all right? Chapter 1154. I've read Tang poems before, but I've never seen you like this. Why are you, looking like you're in heat? Gu Mingming looked at Leah in confusion. Leah cupped his heart and said, I wasn't your male when you read Tang poems the last time. Gu Mingming thought for a while and nodded. Yeah, right. The last time was when we confirmed the identity of the messenger and solder. You were a beast pet then. Leah looked at Gu Mingming while pressing on his heart. His slender fingers poked Gu Mingming's body to test the waters, and then he broke out into a smile. He looked up at Gu Mingming ambiguously and said, The contents of the Esoterica are sacred and inviolable to the Snow Fox tribe. Every Snow Fox tribe member has to worship it after reading it. And you're an existence that's above the secret manual. But just 2 days ago, I pressed you down like this, like that. Ah. I feel like I'm blaspheming the gods, but this kind of feeling makes me very excited. Gu Mingming's face twitched, and she put down her wine glass and leg. She placed her hand on Li's shoulder and looked at him with a dark face, saying, Leah, tell me, you're not a pervert. Leah was taken aback. His brows relaxed and he suddenly smiled. He stood up and pulled Gu Mingming under his body. He placed one hand on her back to prevent her from bumping into the side of the table and getting hurt, while the other hand supported on the edge of the table. Yeah, a perfect table thump. What if I am? Are you planning to abandon me, or sink into depravity with me? Gu Mingming was a little flustered by Li's thump. How should she put it? Once Leah started to attack, his aura was really not to be trifled with. Even if they had done all kinds of intimate things before, once Leah seriously flirted with her, his entire body would emit an irresistible hormone. He did not deny his dark side and could even display it completely in front of you to tell you, you're mine and you can't escape. Damn it. Holy *T, whose husband was so handsome. Gu Mingming blushed, and the fox's seductive fragrance in the cave that had yet to dissipate became even more intense. Leah smiled devilishly and hooked Gu Mingming's chin, saying, You just woke up. If I do it again, can you take it? Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She shook her head and said, Don't. If you do it again, my bones will fall apart. Leah chuckled. Then don't seduce me. Besides. As Leah spoke, he pinched Gu Mingming's little face and twisted it to the side. His line of sight landed on Elvis. Leah leaned forward and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, I'm a snow fox and I have a certain level of resistance towards the fox's seductive fragrance. But Elvis can't resist your temptation. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis's forbearing look and felt even more embarrassed. She hadn't King done it on purpose, but Li's words had triggered a reaction in her body. She hadn't expected herself to be so sensitive. Hubby. Gu Mingming called out softly, feeling wronged like a cat that had been bullied. This sound was like adding fuel to the fire. Gritting his teeth, he grabbed Leah by the back of his neck and threw him aside in a parabola position. He hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and kissed her, saying, Don't worry, I can hold it in. You haven't calmed down yet. I won't torture you now. Be good and eat. Don't starve yourself. Chapter 1155. Based on the fact that Li's adaptability to alcohol was better than Elvis's, and Elvis was stronger in terms of strength, even if Leah were to go crazy after drinking, Elvis would be able to suppress him. Hence, the two of them discussed and decided that Leah would be the one to taste the alcohol, while Elvis would not touch a single drop. Gu Mingming said that there was no need for that. There were only a few barrels of wine, and the only grapes she had seen so far were the stray beasts. Now that Peter was no longer the leader of the stray beasts, it was no longer convenient for them to pluck grapes from the stray beasts. So Gu Mingming wanted to drink sparingly. Even if it was not convenient for Elvis and Leah to drink, there was no need to force them. She could drink by herself, really. But Elvis and Leah did not agree. They had already determined that the wine was a dangerous item. Unless Leah personally verified that it was harmless, he would not allow Gu Mingming to touch it by herself. So Gu Mingming, who could drink, was forbidden from touching it, while Leah, who passed out after one glass, began his drunken rampage every day. The drunken Leah changed his demeanor. He chased after Gu Mingming while waving his little leather whip. He also bit his lower lip and removed his beast-skin dress to expose himself in front of Gu Mingming for her to ravage. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws, fought with Elvis, and cried bitterly as he hugged Elvis and talked about the past. Anyway, this winter was not a lonely one because of Lee's various tricks. However, even though Leah had finished a few barrels of wine, his alcohol tolerance did not improve at all. It was not that he did not improve at all. It was just that, from 1 glass to 1.5 glasses, this improvement left Gu Mingming speechless. Most people would have at least gone from 1 glass to a bottle after drinking for so long, right? She felt heartache for those barrels of wine. It was all for nothing. When the snow sealing the cave started to crack, Gu Mingming knew that this winter was over. Leaning in Elvis's arms, Gu Mingming looked at Leah, who was in a much better mental state after 2 to 3 days without a hangover after drinking all the wine. She smiled helplessly and said, "Do you still remember what you set up before winter after leading a befuddled life for the entire winter?" Leah held his forehead. His persistent hangover had caused him to not remember anything else other than that mating. It was all a mess of drunken rampages. The arrangements before winter. Closing his eyes, Leah organized his thoughts and said, "Mingming, what do you plan to do after winter ends?" Aren't we already booked to go to the Mota Mountains?" Gu Mingming countered. Leah chuckled. "What's there to fix? Everything depends on your mood." Gu Mingming chuckled. "So there's a second option if I don't go to Mota Mountains?" Leah nodded and answered. "I spread 2 pieces of news before winter. One was that you personally told Maya about the Mota Mountains, and the other was that I accidentally leaked the heart of the desert." Gu Mingming was confused. "But we don't even know where the heart of the desert is. It can't be an option." Lee's lips curled into a beautiful arc. He looked thoughtfully at the cracked but not broken snow sealing the entrance of the cave. "After winter ends, it will come to us on its own. Just like Kiss of the Ocean and Soul of the Forest." "You mean coal?" Gu Mingming frowned and asked. Chapter 1156. The heart of the desert could activate Elvis's Beast King bloodline, while the love of the sky could fulfill Gu Mingming's wish of giving birth to a nest of little foxes. Which one do you want first? Should she charge into the trap that Cole had set up in a hurry during the winter, or explore the unknown mystery of the Mota Mountains? Leah played with Gu Mingming's silky hair and said softly, "The way the 16 valued females treated Maya, Cole must have known that you have discovered Maya's identity. So, should we try to cover things up, or should we try to cover things up? Between Soul of the Forest and Love of the Sky, which is the real smokescreen? Or could it be that the spirit of the rocky cliffs that we have never mentioned is the real target?" Cole must be having a headache now. Gu Mingming smiled too. She had always thought that she had been played by Cole, and had forgotten that her fox was the wisest person in the beast world. If they were to really compete in strategizing, her fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole. After all, using Maya given by Cole to create a Saint Nazir that Cole could not touch was the best proof. Lee's fingers twirled around Gu Mingming's hair, playing with it tirelessly. His gaze was gentle and casual, as if he was comfortable with this kind of life. It was clear that he would have to face a great storm after the Han dynasty was broken, but his tone was calm and indifferent, as if he was casually discussing some gossip. "It's impossible to use 3 routes during winter, so I guess that Cole will definitely throw out the bait after winter ends. Whether you want to take the bait or not, it's up to you. And I will be responsible for letting you escape unscathed." Gu Mingming chuckled and nodded. It would be more advantageous if they could obtain the heart of the desert first. If Elvis could also become a beast king, then Qixuan's incident would not happen again. Because no matter what happened, Gu Mingming only needed to protect her little cub and leave the rest to Elvis to handle. But how many unforeseen events would occur in this exchange? Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis, "Hubby, do you want to be the beast king?" Elvis answered without hesitation, "Yes." Gu Mingming nodded. That's right, males' thirst for power was an instinct no matter which world they were in. "I want to become someone worthy of you," Elvis added, hugging Gu Mingming's little head and kissing it. Gu Mingming's heart warmed and she smiled softly. Everything her husband did was because of her. "All right, I got it." Gu Mingming chuckled and decided to play along. Cole couldn't figure out what she was planning, so how could she completely guess his plan? But since Leah was so confident, he decided to take a gamble. Their fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole when it came to scheming. As he thought about it, he actually felt a trace of anticipation. 3 days later, the snow covering the entrance of the cave melted. Gu Mingming, who was draped in the giant rabbit skin, was carried out of the cave by Elvis. Gu Mingming's little face was half hidden under the hood, revealing only her small mouth and delicate chin. Her entire face could not be seen clearly, but it gave off a sense of beauty that made one's imagination run wild. When she arrived at the platform of the deity's punishment, there were already 3 families gathered there. When they saw Gu Mingming, they all bowed respectfully. Chapter 1157. Elvis carried Gu Mingming straight up the platform of the deity's punishment. After he stood still, he howled into the sky, causing the birds in the forest to flap their wings and soar. Even the snow on the tree branches rustled and fell. After this howl, the entire sky above Saint Nazaire reverberated with the roars of wild beasts. Gu Mingming was shocked the first time she heard it. But after hearing it twice, she felt very excited. Pulling Elvis's arm, Gu Mingming asked softly, "Hunting, can you bring me along?" Elvis caressed Gu Mingming's hair, his gaze gentle and affectionate. His tone was full of indulgence and helplessness as he said, "I know you are very strong, but even so, I still don't want my female to face those bloody and violent scenes. Can you understand me?" Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and nodded. Actually, in Snake's memories, blood and violence were the basic norm. She was originally afraid of blood, but after inheriting over 1,000 years of Snake's memories, now, even if Gu Mingming had to personally dismember her prey, she would not hesitate. But Gu Mingming still decided to accept Elvis's heartache. Elvis kissed the top of Gu Mingming's head and did not say anything else. With the 16 valued females gathered, Gu Mingming waved her hand to summon Mandy to sit beside her. Then, she swept her gaze across them one by one, and the corners of her lips lifted. "Liana, come here." Gu Mingming pointed at Liana, who had 2 more little lions beside her. Liana smiled sweetly and jumped down from the beast pet. With each hand, she carried her sons up the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mingming looked at the seat beside her and said, "Sit here." Liana was extremely happy. Ever since she knew she was pregnant, she had been looking forward to this day. Receiving the great messenger's appreciation and recognition was really a very, very glorious thing to her. Although she was just sitting quietly beside the great messenger, it was as if she could see her entire body glowing. "Page, come here too." Gu Mingming then pointed at a male from the Eagle Owl tribe standing beside her, and a female with 6 little eagle owls hanging on his body. Page smiled happily, and was also sent up the platform of the deity's punishment by her own male. Gu Mingming nodded. She was in a good mood. This was the 3rd winter since she came to the beast world. In the first year, she gave birth to Huda's quadruplets. In the second year, she encountered too many disturbances which caused the females to be unable to conceive peacefully. As a result, not a single new life was born in Saint Nazaire last year. Although only these 2 females were pregnant this year, at least there were 8 more little ones, so the tribe would not be lonely anymore. Gu Mingming held Mandy's hand and gave her a warm gaze. Then, she stood up and announced, "From today onwards, Paige will replace Mandy as the first beauty of the beast world. Leanna replaced me as the first beauty of Saint Nazir. From then on the first day of winter every year, the males would go on their first hunt to compete for the title of the tribe's #1 warrior. The females will go through a beauty contest, and based on the total number of cubs, the most beautiful female in the beast world, and the most beautiful female in the tribe will be chosen. Chapter 1158. As the previous most beautiful female in the beast world, Mandy was exceptionally generous at this moment. She stood up and walked to Paige. She held Paige's hand lightly and smiled. In the future, the title of most beautiful female in the beast world will be yours. You must guard this glory well, and always remember the great messenger's teachings. You must never disappoint the great messenger. The 16 valued females will be your backing, and will always support and protect you. But at the same time, we are all your competitors. I will work even harder next winter, and by then, I will definitely snatch back the title of the beast world's first beauty. Paige was a female from the deer tribe. Herbivores did not have the wildness of carnivores. She looked delicate and adorable. Her eyes sparkled when she smiled. She looked extremely innocent. She twisted her body and held Mandy's hand back. Don't worry, I will not let everyone down. But I have already promised my Clark that I will give birth to a litter of fawns for him next year. So whether I can snatch back the title of most beautiful female in the beast world is still uncertain. The conversation between the two females was not too heated. Both of them behaved appropriately. This made Gu Mingming feel comforted. Although she grew up watching palace dramas, she really did not like the feeling of scheming against each other. It was the best situation for Gu Mingming that the females in the tribe could coexist peacefully. Great messenger. A soft and timid voice came from below the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mingming looked towards the source of the voice. It was Maya. Frowning slightly, Gu Mingming did not show any obvious hostility. She just smiled politely and asked, "What's the matter?" I'm pregnant too." Maya lowered her head shyly. She did not dare to look at Gu Mingming in the eyes. Gu Mingming stared at Maya's flat stomach in confusion. Maya saw that Gu Mingming was not saying anything and added, "It's a female cub." Gu Mingming raised her brows in surprise. She had placed her hopes on Sandy's stomach. But Sandy gave birth to 3 male children, and Saint Nazir's first female cub was actually in Maya's stomach. It was ironic, but there was nothing she could do. Waving her hand, Gu Mingming said, "Then you come up too." Maya nodded obediently, and allowed her partner to lift her onto the platform of the deity's punishment. Coming to Gu Mingming's side, Gu Mingming wanted to hold her hand but suddenly put it down. She frowned slightly and her gaze was cold. "It's not easy to give birth to a female cub. Take good care of it." Gu Mingming turned around and shot Mandy a look, meaning that Maya was now pregnant with a female child. In that case, all actions against her would have to stop. After all, regardless of what happened to Maya, a female child was too precious. Mandy understood and nodded. Then she whispered something into Leanna's and Paige's ears. This was a secret code between the 16 valued females. To Maya, it was just an ordinary greeting. Only the 16 valued females understood what it meant. All right, the beauty contest is over. Now it's time for the males to show off their skills. As Gu Mingming said, she walked to Elvis and wrapped her arms around his neck to kiss him. She smiled and said, "Hubby, it's all up to you now." Chapter 1159. Roar. With a deafening roar, Elvis kissed Gu Mingming heavily again before transforming into a black wolf and leading the pack of beasts to attack. That roar shook the earth and the sky. The scene was so spectacular that it made one's blood boil. Gu Mingming supported her chin with her hand as she watched Elvis leave. She kept a smile on her face and clearly said, "My hubby is so handsome." After a long while, Elvis could no longer be seen. Gu Mingming then retracted her gaze and leaned into Li's arms. She looked at Maya and said, "Maya, you don't have to wait here today. Go back to the cave and have a good rest." This Maya was very surprised. She blinked innocently at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "You are carrying the first female cub in Saint Nazaire. It's very precious. I don't want anything to happen to you. Your top priority now is to protect the fetus and give birth to this female cub safely. You don't have to care about anything else, understand?" "All right." Maya answered obediently before letting her males carry her back. After Maya left, Gu Mingming and Leah exchanged glances, but neither of them said anything. Mandy, Liana and Paige sat on the platform of the deity's punishment to accompany Gu Mingming. The three of them kept glancing at Leah. Their gazes were not aggressive, but still made one feel uncomfortable. It was like the first day of school when the girls gathered together to secretly discuss their female classmates who had gone for plastic surgery during the holidays. Gu Mingming held her forehead and said, "Just say what you want to say. This strange gaze makes one very uneasy." Mandy was the most familiar and closest to Gu Mingming among the 16 valued females. So Liana nudged her to ask the question on behalf of everyone. Mandy fidgeted but still took 2 steps forward and said, "That. Leah seems to have become more good-looking after this winter. We want to ask, did something happen? Better looking?" Gu Mingming turned back to look at Leah with a face full of suspicion. By right, every time the males of the Snow Fox tribe leveled up, there would be some changes to their looks. So when Leah leveled up from the 3rd level to the 4th, Gu Mingming clearly felt that he had become more handsome and less charming. But now he had not leveled up, so how could there be any changes? Not good looking? Leah allowed Gu Mingming to size him up for a long time. Seeing that she did not show any signs of infatuation on her face, he was slightly dissatisfied. He pinched Gu Mingming's chin and shook it a few times. Then he flipped his hair and opened his thin lips slightly, revealing his white teeth and the tip of his moist tongue. He leaned forward, almost touching the tip of Gu Mingming's nose, saying softly, "How about this? Does it look better? Or, do I have to take off this troublesome animal skin dress before you'll know I'm good looking?" Gu Mingming blushed and slapped Lee's face. "Why are you acting like a hooligan in broad daylight? You're my female. Flirting with you isn't called being a hooligan. After all, I have the responsibility to please you." With that, Leah leaned towards her, looking like he was going to eat her up in front of everyone. "Ah!" An irrepressible howl of excitement came from the 3 females who were hugging each other and jumping on the spot. Their eyes were filled with love. Chapter 1160. Gu Mingming sighed, pushed Leah away and sat up. While tidying her clothes, she said, "Restrain yourself, don't fool around outside. Look at them, they are treating us like AVs." But Leah did not let it go. He hugged Gu Mingming from behind, looking like a dodgy who could bring disaster to the country and people. He said in a charming manner, "But I can't control myself. Every time I see you, I want to hug you, kiss you, then eat you." The last 3 words were only audible to Gu Mingming's ears. Her ears were tickled by his breath and she pinched his waist, saying, "Eat me? Aren't you afraid of breaking your teeth? How can I bear to bite you? I always lick you, you know that, right?" As he said, Lee's tongue landed on Gu Mingming's left ear. It was sweet, moist and warm. Gu Mingming exploded and jumped up instantly. She pointed at Leah, who was sitting at the same spot and smiling at her. Her face turned red but she could not say a word. Lee's gaze was crafty and his smile was full of teasing. It was obvious that he did it on purpose. She looked at the 3 females who were screaming just now. Now they were pinching each other so hard that their arms were purple, but they were still smiling like idiots, sighing. Gu Mingming face-bombed and said, "Are you trying to make me into everyone's fantasy partner?" Leah smiled but did not reply. He just opened his arms and called out with the most intoxicating smile and deep voice, "Mingming, come over and let me hug you." For some reason, Gu Mingming, who had just escaped from Lee's arms, leaned back into Lee's arms as if she was bewitched. But Lee's aura had changed unknowingly. When the 2 of them hugged each other, there was no longer the feeling of something that needed to be censored in the next second. Instead, it became pure and sweet. The 2 of them hugging each other was like a perfect painting, and no one could bear to destroy this beauty. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's little face. Gu Mingming also recovered from the "come over and let me hug you" sentence. She chuckled and said so cloying. You don't like it? Leah asked softly. Gu Mingming shook her head. I like it. Then I will be sick of you forever. With that, Leah pecked Gu Mingming's face again. A little lion rolled and crawled to Gu Mingming's hand, sniffing Gu Mingming's body with its little nose, looking chubby and cute. Gu Mingming raised her arms to hug him, but was held back by Leah. Do you want to mate with him? Gu Mingming's eyes widened as she stared at Leah as if he was a pervert. This bun had just been born, and the fastest way to move was to roll. Did she look like a pervert who would lay her hands on a baby bun that couldn't even stand up? Leah pinched Gu Mingming's nose as punishment and said, If you hug him, you have to be responsible for him. If he had your scent on him, do you think any female would want him? Who would dare to snatch a male from the messenger of the beast deity? No. Gu Mingming wanted to cry but no tears came out. When she said that Fei Rui was still a child, Leah and Elvis refuted her, and she accepted it. After all, Fei Rui was already a second-level beast, and was considered an adult. But this bun, heavens and earth, he was really a child, and the kind that was still in swaddling clothes. How twisted did she have to be lustful towards a bun? You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.